Seth David here with the world-famous Nerd Enterprises Incorporated, bringing to you another special screencast. This time we're talking about Airtable for accounting and bookkeeping firms. And just in case, and before anybody gets distracted, I have a fan blowing in the background. Why? Because it's 106 degrees here in beautiful downtown Burbank, California. And the air conditioning is only so effective by itself, but with a fan on, it's almost too cold. So I'll take it. Sorry for the distraction. I hope you understand. Now, let's get down to business. Airtable. There are a lot of out-of-the-box project management tools that a lot of us love to use, myself included, other than Airtable, for the purpose of managing an accounting or bookkeeping firm. Why then would you choose to use Airtable? Simple. Airtable is not a project management app out of the box. It is a database. It is a blank database that you can build and design exactly according to your needs, exactly according to your specifications. So the downside is there's some assembly required. The upside is you can have it your way. In other words, if you can conceive it, you can create it. And Airtable is a really slick and powerful tool, especially if one of your frustrations, let's say, is that you don't have in whatever tools you're using a really good bird's eye view that you can look at across the board, every single client and project, exactly what's out there, what needs to be done and by whom. And a lot of these apps, you have to kind of go project by project to really get a good look at what's going on. But with what I'm going to show you now in Airtable and how you can build it, I'm going to show you how you have one master table in the database that's got every task for every project with every assignee and everything in one place. And then you just have to learn how to use Airtable to sort of cut it up and carve it up to get a look at whatever it is that you need to see and in whatever format or layout you need to see it in. Let's take a look at my screen and I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about. All right, so here we are. Here's Airtable. Now, when you start a brand new Airtable base from scratch, it's going to look like this. Now, if you're catching this right up on the Firm of the Future blog from my good friends here at Intuit, then you'll see there's lots of detailed screenshots and write-up explaining step by step how to build this into a database for an accounting or bookkeeping firm. And I've called it Umbrella Accounting as my sample. So I'm not going to rebuild the whole thing from scratch in this video. You've got the screenshots for that, but I do want to walk through what we've created here. I'm going to drill into this a little bit to show you how some of the things got created. But now that we've got it built out and I've got some good sample data in here, I want to show you how it works, what it looks like. And then, of course, you all know where to find me if you need additional help. So we're looking at the database, and if you think about a product like QuickBooks Online, let's say, think about how you have all your different lists, right? You have your chart of accounts, that's a list. You have your customer center, that's a list of your customers and all the data and details you want to track about a customer. You have your products and services list, that's another list. You have your vendors, and so on and so forth. So I want you to keep that in mind as you think about how we approach building something like this in Airtable. So starting with products and services, right? This is where you can see I've laid out a pretty, simple, clean list of some typical services that you might see offered in an accounting or bookkeeping firm, right? So we have basic bookkeeping services. We have 3 different plans, Tall, Grande, and Venti. We have tax prep for an S-Corp, tax prep for an LLC, cleanup work that I might do, and training services. And over here, I've just created a currency column, right? So when I double click this, you can see I just named it standard rate, and for the type I chose currency, and then I can choose what currency symbol I want, the precision, how many decimals, and so on. I can even put a default value in there for whenever a new record is created, and I can choose whether or not I want it to allow negative numbers, right? Then over here I said we should have a rate type because some of these fees are going to be based on monthly. Whereas, the training we're doing hourly, right? $185 an hour for an hour training. So I wanted to be able to distinguish that very clearly. And once anything exists in one of these tables, it can easily be looked up in any of the other tables if we ever need it to, okay? So next we have the client list, right? And I've laid out 4 sample clients with a lot of the information one might want to track about a client. And there's 2 ways to kind of look around what's in a record, right? Each of these rows is a record, each column is a field, right? Again, we're talking database. So I've put my own company, Nerd Enterprises, Inc., as a client of Umbrella Accounting. And if you go across, I've added my company logo in there. I always capture this from new clients when I sign them on. It's very handy to have. First case is when I'm setting up QuickBooks Online. for the company, and I want to be able to upload their logo into their company so that it can be used to populate forms, right? So of course we catch the address, right? The contact name is me, there's the mobile number, there's the business number, the email, right? I can put notes in, the website, what type of entity, date of incorporation, when was the last return filed, and then ignore this for now. This is just where it accumulates jobs and projects that I've assigned to this customer, right? The other way I can analyze this record is if I click this little guy to the left, I can go through it sort of this way, right? So, and especially when I'm building a new record, when I'm filling it out, this is very often a handy way of looking at it. And this is linked to the jobs and projects table. So from within here, I can click on this and notice what it does. It shows me, okay, I'm looking at a pop-up basically of what that is inside of the jobs and projects. So Airtable makes it really easy for you to drill around. And over here, similarly, I can go another level deep because within that table, I've got tasks assigned to this job or project, right? So Airtable makes it really easy to kind of drill around on stuff. The other thing we can do, which is perfect with clients, is I can add on a form, right? So if I click on form, Airtable will pretty much build it for me using the existing fields, and I'll call this new client form. And of course I can, I'll add a cover image to make it pretty, I'll add a logo, but it's basically going to turn all those fields into a form, which I can then share and use this link. And when a new client comes in, or when the prospect comes in and says, hey, I want to sign on, I want you to do my bookkeeping for me, I simply send them this link and I say, great, do me a favor, fill out this form, and then I'll have everything I need to set up the contract and everything else I need to do. And then of course you can use something like Zapier to use the data that's captured here, which will drop in, of course, over here as a new record. And then Zapier can grab that data and it can create a new client in your own QBO company, and it can create I have mine creating a new folder for the client in Google Drive, and it creates a new workspace and Smartsheet, all the tools that I know I want to use with every single client. Zapier grabs this information here, and it automatically sets up all those services that I need set up for every single client that comes in the door. So using the tools that are out there makes it really easy to automate processes and workflows, and that's kind of what this is all about. Next, we have our list of jobs or projects. So here, every time you sign on a new client, that client you might have many projects for. Maybe I have their monthly bookkeeping services and I do their tax prep, right? So I can add in a new project here, and I'm going to come right over here. The status is active. The product or services. So Nerd Enterprises already has Grande bookkeeping services, but now I want to add on tax prep for an S Corp, right? So I just did that here. So each one of those services kind of gets its own record here, right? And the client is going to be Nerd Enterprises. And once I assign the client, it looks up the contact name, which is me. It looks up the standard fee, but I have that distinguished separately because I may not want to use the standard fee. Maybe I've had a conversation with the prospect and we decided we're going to do a few more add-on things. So I'm going to do $17.50, right? And that's going to be, well, this is for tax prep, so this is going to be per return, right, for the fee type. So again, I could have looked it up because we had the fee type in the products and services table, but once again, I may want to do things differently in reality, right? And then, of course, we have notes, so I can write up notes here, to remind myself or explain. I can put hyperlinks in here. Also, what I can do, if I double-click this, is I can enable rich text formatting. So when I write those notes up, I can actually format things properly with the right header level or bullet points or whatever I need to do. As of this recording, that's a fairly new feature in Airtable. And then as I go into the tasks table here and assign tasks to this project, that's where you'll see these tasks kind of being accumulated here. Over here, I can add attachments. That's just like what I did with the clients, for the company logo. It's just an attachments field. It's one of the types of field you can add, and that will show up on forms as a file upload. And of course, I can drag or drop files right in here from my computer. It's got integrations with Google Drive, Dropbox, and so on. So very, very easy to add file attachments here in Airtable. Next, I have the employees. This is going to be pretty straightforward. I just have their names. Of course, in a real situation, I probably have more information about those employees built out in this table. And then I have an admin tab here, which I'll just skip to for a second, where I use that for notes and things that I want to, like just general notes about things I might want to build out in the database. But as you can see here, I've used it for now just to get some images uploaded because those images get used elsewhere in this database. So now let's focus on the tasks because this is the sort of main meat of what I'd like to show you here. Okay, so I've already kind of gone through now the basic setup and how it was done. You add a new table by clicking this plus sign, and you've already seen, each of the columns that gets added. I can right-click an existing column and choose Insert Left or Right to create a new column. But if I go all the way out to the right, controlling the right arrow, and I scroll a little bit further than that, I can hit this plus sign to add new fields that way, right? And then once you do that, again, you have your choice. The first column is more limited in terms of the types of columns you can have. Every other column, you can choose any of these, right, as different kinds of columns that you can create to track different kinds of information that you want to track. For example, the start date and end and due date here that I've created. These are obviously date-based columns. So you pick them, you get a calendar. In the setup, you can choose if you want to include a time field. If for some reason things are, you need to get that specific about what time something is due, you can do that. Okay, and so what I've done is I've populated this with some data, and based on that, I want to show you how you can quickly organize this stuff, right? And so notice the little red markers here. This is automated based on color coding where the due date is on or before today. So it's just showing you what's either late or due today, okay? Very, very easy to do. As you can see, you click the color. Initially, this was blank. I chose add color, and then I set this up. Where the due date, so here you have a list of all your different fields, right? So you can set the condition based on any criteria. And where it's on or before today. So these are all just different options I can choose, right? And that's how I get this to work. Now, let's say I want to see a bird's eye view of who's working on what. So I'm going to click this group option. And I'm going to pick a field to group by, and let's start with Assign To. The Assign To field is populated based on the list of employees. So going over here, I can now see everything that's assigned to Carolyn, everything that's assigned to Jesse, everything that's assigned to Michelle. If I only want to see what's incomplete, right? Notice I have the task status here, so I can add a filter to this where the task status is not completed. So if I go in here and say, oh, this actually got done, I change it to completed. I have to click off of it, but then notice it goes away. It's no longer showing in this view. And as long as I've got this view and I want to save it, right, because I'm in the sort of master view here, which I'm going to rename in a minute, then I'll choose duplicate view. And I'll call this, it wants me to name it here, I'll call this Open Tasks by Assignee. Okay, and now that's this view. Then I can go back to the grid view and I can just kind of reset all that criteria, right? When you sort something, I have this sorted by due date, and it's got this option checked off that's meant to keep it sorted. So anytime I make a change in the due date or if I add a new record, it's going to automatically sort it right away. If I don't have that option, it won't. It'll leave it at the bottom until I go in and tell it to sort something, right? So what else can we do? Let's also group. Another really cool way to look at this stuff is if I want to group by project. Okay, so now I can see in an instant what's going on by project. Of course, I can filter this for any one project. That's really easy to do. Over here, I've got it filtered for one particular client, Avant Accounting, right? So you can create that filter, right, where the client contains Avant Accounting Services, right? And then I just save that view here. And I can do this for each and every individual client, and you can see how easy it is to find them. And if this list starts to get long, as it very well might, I've got this search where I can say, as soon as I type AVA, that comes up in the view. So very easy to create and carve out different views. Think of them as like reports where I can quickly and easily chisel this data down to exactly what I need, right? So I've got this now organized by project, but maybe what I want, because I might have multiple projects for the same clients. So let's go into the grouping. Let's pick another field to group by, and let's put clients in the mix, but I want clients first. I want to see it first by client, then by project, and then let's do it by assignee within that. Right? So you can do quite a bit of, groupings here, right? So I can see here's Avant Accounting, here's the bookkeeping services, right? And here's what's assigned to Jesse for the bookkeeping services, and here's what's assigned to Michelle, right? Under Nerd Enterprises, if I had any tasks assigned to for the tax prep part, that would also show up here, as a separate project. Also notice each of these now gets this little arrow, so I can zip things up. I can even right-click this and say collapse all, so I can quickly get focused and say, all right, let me see what's going on at Parkway, right? Boom. So now I can see very clearly. I've got Josh, who's supposed to be reviewing the statement of cash flows with them, and Michelle needs to send the recordings from the previous trainings, right? Run the uncleared transactions and show them how to do that, and so on and so forth, right? And then I might look at this and say, wait a minute, I might have generically stuck this in here and say run the uncleared transactions. That's not a training function. That's something we do for bookkeeping clients, right? So if I wanted to, I could actually from right here just right-click and delete the record, right? And say, okay, that's no good. That's not something we really need to be doing for them. Okay, let's take a look at a couple of other things, right? And then I want to leave something to your imagination so you can think of like what you want to create out of this. So I'm going to just remove all the groupings, kind of reset the whole thing. And of course I could have, duplicated that view and just carved out another one here. This grid view, let's just call this master task list. Okay, because that's what this is. And here you're going to have every single task for every project, for every client. It's all in one place, which is why you're able to easily, sort of report on this. And speaking of reporting on this, first of all, let's take a look at a calendar view. Okay, and I have the color coding on the calendar view set up based on the status, right? So that's how you can see. So orange is pending, green it means it's started, and so on and so forth, right? The purple means it's been scheduled, but it hasn't been done yet. So I'd better not see any purple on any day prior to today. Of course, you can click the Today button in case you've moved around on the timeline here, so to speak, and you need to get back home. You're in the month view. We can do a 2-week view. We can do a single week. We can do a 3-day, a 1-day. So you have choices here in terms of how you want to look at things. Over on the right, you can find records. So this is saying records with dates, right? Records without dates would in effect be anything that hasn't been, that's sort of uncategorized as to, scheduling when it's going to be done, right? And here we have all records. So on the right, you get a nice little drop down where you can quickly navigate, and you can click into any one of these and analyze it and see what needs to be done with it, right? So that's really cool. And then we can collapse that or choose to see it, just to give us more space to work with, right? What else? Now I want to show you something really cool. I can't show you how to build this because it would be another 20-minute video to do, but I just want you to see the potential of what this can offer. So here we have blocks, and I took the time off recording, of course, to create this block. This is like a report. So it's Umbrella Accounting Open Tasks, right? Remember, that's my accounting firm. Nerd Enterprises, Inc. is the customer. Bookkeeping Services Grande is the project. This is all dynamically pulling in from the source records that we just looked at, and it's showing me every task that's open here and who it's assigned to and what the due date is and what the status is. And if I click Next Record, it's going to go to Parkway, and it's going to show me his opens. And if I click Next, it's going to show me the numbers guy and what I need to do for Greg, right? And it shows me, what's assigned to who. Again, all pretty straightforward, but just showing you what you can potentially do with this. And here's Avant Accounting Services, right? And of course, you can take these and you can print them, right? And I can print them easily to a PDF. Some might be thinking, well, can you dump it to Excel? You can, but there's no need to do it from there because I can take any view from any table and I can click this ellipsis and I can download it to a CSV file if that's what I feel like I need to do with it. And then, of course, I can open that and save it as an Excel file. So if I need to send that to somebody, if I want to send information out of here to somebody without inviting them in, again, very, very easy to do. Last but not least, back over in the blocks, we also have this Gantt view, which when I go full screen, most of you I think by now know what a Gantt chart is, and you can see it's very slick, and there's all kinds of settings in here that you can play with in terms of showing exactly how it's all laid out, and what you're actually seeing, whether it's based off the master task list or something else. So there's always that. One other really quick thing I want to show you just because it's kind of cool. So I'm going to group this again by project and then just by assignee. right? I love the way you can pivot around data. Think of Airtable in a sense. In many ways, it's like a pivot table for just data, right? So I have this group by project and then within that by assignee, but maybe I want to see it the other way around. So as you kind of saw me do earlier, I can easily flip this. Right, so now very quickly I can view it by assignee first and then see, all right, what's Carolyn working on, right? So again, very quick bird's eye view of anything I need to look at. And of course, lots of capabilities in terms of chiseling this down to the most minimum amount of detail that I'd ever want to be able to look at within this. So I have all the flexibility in the world. So going back to what I said in the beginning, the downside is there's some, maybe even a lot of assembly required on this. The upside is if I can conceive it, I can create it. In other words, I can create the exact experience I want to create for myself because I have all the flexibility of a generic database system that I can build out however I choose to build it out to create the exact experience I want to have. And of course, when it comes time to customize or I realize there's something else I'd like to be able to get out of here, I can go in there and figure out how to get the data out of there. I don't have to wait for some consultant or somebody else to come in there and do it for me. That assumes, of course, that I'm willing to and have taken the time to learn how to use a tool like Airtable. That, my friends, is my quick, less than 30 minutes for now on how to use Airtable for an accounting or bookkeeping practice. As always, if you have any concerns, comments, questions, you know where to find me. Post comments, reach out to me, find me on the web. I'm more than happy to be more than available to you to answer any questions you might have about anything that you've seen here today. As always, I hope you learned something here, had some fun along the way. I hope you're having an absolutely fantastic day, and I look forward to seeing you on the web.